All right, let's talk about something that sounds kind of wild. Websites that are truly unstoppable. I'm talking about sites that can't be censored, can't be deleted, and could, potentially last as long as the internet itself.
No, really, just think about that for a second. What if you could put something on the web and know for a fact that it would be there forever, totally unchanged for anyone to see? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but believe it or not, it's actually happening right now.
And it turns out there isn't just one way to pull this off. There are a few different ways people are achieving this kind of digital permanence. So let's get into it and break down the main approaches.
Okay, so let's start with the fundamentals. What are the core strategies people are using to make a website live forever? When you boil it all down, it really comes down to two main camps. First, you've got the super hardcore approach, carving your entire website, code and all, directly onto the blockchain itself. And then there's the more practical way. You store your site on a decentralized network and just use the blockchain as like a permanent, unchangeable address book. Let's dig into both.
Let's kick things off with the most extreme method, going fully on-chain. The best way to think about this is like carving your website into a massive slab of granite. Yeah, it's going to be there forever, but it's also incredibly difficult and, you guessed it, really expensive. And the big technology making this possible, at least on Bitcoin, is something called Ordinals. It's a pretty genius protocol that lets you inscribe or attach data directly onto a single Satoshi. And a Satoshi is just the tiniest possible piece of a Bitcoin. Once you do that, your data, your website, becomes a permanent, unremovable part of the Bitcoin blockchain. Forever. And this isn't just some abstract idea. People are actually doing it. It's amazing. We've seen tiny, fully interactive games, mind-blowing visual demos, and incredible generative art projects all inscribed and living directly on Bitcoin. It really shows you the kind of creativity this inspires. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. All that permanence comes at a really steep price. We're talking gigabytes of data already crammed onto Bitcoin's precious block space. This is absolutely not a scalable way to host your company's website. It's more like a digital art statement, and a very, very expensive one at that. So what's the more practical solution then? Well, if ordinals are like carving in granite, this next approach is more like getting your book published and making sure a copy is stored in every single library on the planet forever. Okay, so here's how it works, and it's actually pretty straightforward. You take all your website's files, the HTML, the CSS, the whole shebang, and you upload them to a decentralized storage network, something like IPFS or Arweave. Then you get a blockchain domain, which is basically just an NFT that acts as your web address, and you point it to your content. So the blockchain isn't holding the website, it's just holding the permanent, unbreakable link to it. And listen, if you're thinking about actually building one of these things, this is the key takeaway. This two-step process, store the files, then link to them, is the go-to, scalable, and affordable standard that pretty much everyone is using for real projects right now. This slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? It's the core choice you have to make. On one hand, you have ordinals. If you want the absolute maximum level of permanence for a tiny piece of data and money is no object, that's your play. But for literally everything else, for big, complex websites that need to be fast, affordable, and scalable, the decentralized storage path is the obvious winner. So, how do you actually get started? Let's switch gears from the what to the how and look at a practical playbook for both of these approaches. All right, so if you want to try the ordinals experiment, the process is pretty direct. First, and this is crucial, your site has to be incredibly small. Then you use a tool to create what's called an inscription. You pay the Bitcoin network fee, which can be pretty hefty. And once that's confirmed, boom, your little site is on Bitcoin forever. And you can see it using a special Ordinals Explorer. Now, for a real-world production-ready website, the whole process is going to feel a lot more familiar. You build your static site just like you normally would. But instead of uploading to a traditional web host, you upload it to a permanent network, like Arweave. The last step? You mint a blockchain domain and just point it to your content. It's surprisingly similar to the web development you already know. So in the end, it all just comes down to this: choosing the right tool for the job you're trying to do. One is a profound statement, the other is a powerful utility. So here's the bottom line. If you're building a real functional website that needs to be scalable and censorship resistant, the clear path is using decentralized storage like Arweave and pairing it with a blockchain domain. But If you're an artist or maybe a historian and you want to make a permanent, unchangeable statement with a small piece of data, well, Ordinals offer an incredibly powerful, if expensive, way to do just that.
And that kind of leaves us with the big question, right? Are we looking at the actual foundation for a truly permanent internet, a new kind of web where information can never be lost? Or is this all just a fascinating niche experiment for artists and crypto nerds? Right now it feels like it's a little bit of both. And the path it takes from here, well, that's still being written, one block at a time.